everyone, and welcome back to my yearly roundup of all the weird news that has happened in 2024. I'm back today with a few more weird tales from the year just past. This isn't your usual news roundup, this is strictly the stuff that makes you go, wow. As quite frankly, the regular news is far too depressing and genuinely terrifying, so instead we'll be exploring a few lighter, weird and wonderful stories that may have not made it into the regular newspaper during 2024. Now that's not to say that these stories don't dally with the dark side, because they most definitely do. But there's also some light-hearted strangeness too. But don't worry, if anything is going to be hideously awful, then I'll give you a heads up first. So with the disclaimer out of the way, let's jump into August. Before we kick off today's stories, if you are new here, then hi, my name's Nikki, and I make podcasts, YouTube videos, and TikToks about all sorts of weird stuff. So if you're into that, which I have a sneaking suspicion that you might be, then please hit subscribe so we can hang out together again. And if you're not new here, then welcome back, old fiend. Nice to see you again. Now, this series takes a lot of planning and effort to produce, and it's just me making everything. So if you fancy supporting what I make to help me create this series and beyond, then please check out my Patreon at patreon.com/Macabre London for lots of bonus content. Now, let's get into the episode. At times when I look around, I can't help but think we're nearly getting to the vision of the future which we were all promised from sci-fi films when we were little. Robot delivery drivers, smart homes and AI are all now part of our daily lives. But when one company started up a new fleet of driverless cars, it all seemed to be going good until an issue caused them to malfunction. WAYMO, a company who actually started out life way back when in 2009 under the name of Google Cars, has set up a fleet of driverless vehicles in San Francisco from which customers can book journeys in electric vehicles and not have to endure the awkward conversation with a real-life taxi driver. The network of vehicles allows people to book rides on their app, and the vehicle will arrive, let you hop in, and then off you go. No driver needed. The idea was born as a way to cut down on pollution, make the streets safer, and to reduce the need for people to have to buy a car of their own, with the dream being that eventually everyone would just use the fleet of vehicles, which would make everything uniform and safe for the city's residents. And so far, everything has gone well. The years of testing has allowed the company to go slowly to make sure everything is fine, and even though over the whole time they've been operating, they have reported over 200 crashes, the majority of these have been at speed of less than 1 mile per hour. So it's not what I would call a crash, a minor bump at best. Anything serious that has happened has actually been as a result of human-operated vehicles hitting the WAYMOs, so it's safe to say this technology is, well, safe. However, there is one glitch that has been driving San Franciscans in a particular tower block mad. The WAYMO fleet has a certain car park which is stationed at the foot of a large block of flats. The residents of these apartments have said they've been woken up for months on end by the cars returning to the car park, all trying to park, and when they do so, they begin honking at each other. The incessant loud noise has been bothering the residents, waking them up at all hours of the night, and it also continues throughout the day. The people living in the apartments set up cameras, filmed videos, and sent clips to the company to complain, and they were told the issue is because of a safety feature on the vehicles. When the cars are reversing, other WAYMO vehicles honk to let the other car know to not reverse into them. This safety feature is to warn human drivers if they get too close, but technically WAYMO vehicles should not crash into each other as they're designed not to, so they're honking for no reason. After the clips and videos kept being sent in, and with the threat of a noise complaint being issued to the owners of the company, the software was updated on the vehicles, and residents have said the constant beeping has lessened, but it's not entirely stopped. Residents have said they're getting tired and cranky after having been woken up several times a night, and it seems until the next software update happens, they may just have to invest in a pair of earplugs. Now, I think it's safe to say that often when people get divorced, things can get messy. When the love shared turns sour and money becomes involved, it's easy for people to lash out and things can become personal. In some cases, when things get really brutal, the courts have to step in to help divvy up the remains of a relationship and work out who gets which half of the cat on which weekend. And for the most part, I would assume it's pretty mundane. However, when one couple appeared at the Royal Courts of Justice in London, the judge was confused by their claims, and as she heard more about what they had to say, she went from stunned to baffled. Particularly when one half said there were 2 children involved, and the other countered their claim and said that wasn't true and they simply didn't exist. The case revolved around a former couple, with the man referred to as AA, as he's been protected for legal reasons, claiming he was the father of twin boys. He alleged that his ex-partner, known as ZZ, had hidden the twins' existence and fabricated a web of lies to keep him away from his alleged children. According to AA, ZZ had even shared details like the baby's birth weights and their resemblance to him. But she was claiming there never were any children and that everything he said was made up. On the other hand, ZZ argued that the children never existed in the first place, and she accused AA of doctoring evidence to exact revenge on her after she reported one of his family members to the police. ZZ admitting to having lied about being pregnant in the past, claiming it was an attempt to escape what she described as a coercive relationship, and we have to imagine that this is because she didn't want to have children with the man, and as she confirmed to the judge, she used this as a way to escape. The judge described the case as perplexing and said she felt like she was in an alternative reality whilst going through proceedings. Eventually, she ruled that while there was strong evidence the woman was once pregnant at some point, there wasn't enough to confirm the existence of twins, or to determine where the alleged child or children might be now. But she did say there may have been one child at some point. So that begs the question, why no medical records? Well, AA said ZZ had deliberately avoided doctors in order to have the babies, and it's not clear if the judge asked for these or not, and so it seems a big part of the puzzle has not yet been found. So the case for now is still a mystery, and it seems like this is less a case of baby on board and more a case of baby off the radar. During 2024, it seemed like if you were lucky enough to jet off on holiday, there were always delays of some sort. But for passengers who boarded a flight in Portugal, they were lucky to make it to their destination. When passengers boarded the Airbus A321neo in Lisbon heading to the Azores, they were unaware that below them in the cargo hold they were joined by a number of animals. A combination of animals destined for pet shops were loaded into the plane, including parrots, ferrets and hamsters. But when the plane had landed and the baggage was being unloaded, the handlers realised something had gone wrong. When the hamsters' cages came to be unloaded, they were all empty. Over 130 animals had got loose into the plane and were running around. The animals had to all be captured before the plane could fly again, as the rodents posed a risk to the plane's electrics. And as they loved to chew, they could have easily caused some serious damage. In one video shared to social media, a hamster can be seen bounding around in the baggage hold of a plane, and in another picture, a little black and white hamster is being picked up out of what looks like the plane's fuselage, and the little guy doesn't look happy to have been caught with the threat of being put back in lockdown again. The plane had to be grounded in the Azores for 5 days whilst workers took the plane apart and made sure all of the little fuzzy escape artists were caught. Now, whilst I couldn't find out what happened to the little creatures, for my own sanity, I'm just going to assume that they all went on to be given back to their intended recipient and that they didn't have to go to Sky Jail. But for now, I think we can safely assume that the airport staff have had it
with these motherfucking hamsters on this motherfucking plane.
For that selection of weird stories. I hope you enjoyed them, and if you did, there'll be more along soon, so make sure you're subscribed or following if you're not already to keep up with the series. If you like the show and what I make in general and you want it to continue, then please consider becoming a Patreon supporter, like our executive Patreon producers Christina, Christoph, Heather's Leg, Lisa, Mary, Ravel, Sally, Sam, Sarah, Terry and Veronica, and all of our other patrons too. If you sign up to Patreon, you get access to my other podcast, Having a Problem, which is such a silly fun podcast. I think you're going to love it. If you'd rather just send a tip or a little Christmas gift from my Amazon wishlist, then I would massively appreciate that too. And I'll leave all the links in the show notes in case you want to check them out. It really does mean the world to me if you consider doing any of these things. And of course, there's all the free things like sharing the show around, telling your friends, and maybe your family over the Christmas dinner table. And if you're on my social media, then sharing my posts around is also very useful. Thank you for joining me for this episode. I've been Nikki Druce. Remember to stay spooky, and I'll see you ghouls next time for September.